All right, we got a special little bonus episode for Friday's slate here in the NBA. 9 games. Kareem K is back. We had 2 awesome episodes yesterday, my dude. I really enjoyed talking about both things, which was picks, as well as some of the online chatter around giving out plays and clout and all of these things. Just a little bit of a sneak preview. I'm going to use this episode to say I am going to have DK underscore DFS on an episode to have a conversation with him about a few things. I sent him a rundown to see what he thinks, and we'll go from there because he's a really interesting dude in my opinion. But let's get into your picks, man. How are you feeling today?
Good. Yeah, a little down day yesterday. As far as I think the picks I gave out were what, 1 and 2?
Correct.
Yeah.
No, those were 0-3.
No way. Bridges went under.
No, he had 30.
Yeah, but I gave out points, rebounds, assists, 31.5.
Oh, it's 31.5. I had it at 29.5. I'm sorry, man. I gave you an L for that.
You gave
we didn't lose 3.1 units yesterday, y'all. We lost like probably 2.2 or something like that. So we move
crazy.
On.
Yeah, usually people fix their records in the other direction.
Yeah, I know. I'm fixing mine with too much humility. I need to have some more confidence.
Yeah.
Or be better at math. Whatever.
That's good. I think
yeah. What I mean, looking back on it, like real quick, like Herb Jones didn't really do much. Weird game there that they did win. I don't know. Anything you regret, or still just like those were the plays?
I think in retrospect, Herb, my minutes projection was probably too high for him because I think using the whole season long numbers, and he kind of lost out end of game minutes to Trey Murphy, which I think that probably made that more of a neutral play than a winning play long term. So I think I'll definitely be a little more careful about that rotation in New Orleans.
Yeah. One thing to add to that is there's every player on their starting lineup besides Joe Val and CJ McCollum is a small forward according to like the way they're projected. So once you get Trey Murphy back in the lineup, I think you're right. It's going to disrupt some stuff.
Yeah, I also think there's some that's all the guys, Ingram, McCollum, and Zion, they've all missed some time this year, and Valanciunas. And so they're like, maybe my Herb base numbers were inflated a bit because he was playing a lot of games without some of those guys on the court. I just still think it's 12.5 is such a low number, especially now. So, but yeah, I think that's the one I would regret a little bit. What were the other two? We had
Caruso ended up getting 7 boards, and we had him under 7.5 RA.
Yeah, Caruso, I think that was hard to predict. Obviously, the rebounds went way up when they didn't go with Drummond down the stretch. And, Drummond's rebounds projections were so high. So I think that one I live with, given what we knew before the game. I think the only one of those three that I was like, oh, that was probably a bad, like there was information I failed to account for was the Herb.
Right.
And I do think this type of reflection is really important. I'm playing probably on average like 30, 35 plays on my own per day. And so being able to like adjust is really important because my model is still like the model will still pop things like Herb Jones over. So because it doesn't have that context, so you have to kind of code it and be like, okay, I'm actually going to pass on this for these reasons. So,
right. Yeah. That's usually the biggest one, right? With a model that has a lot of things it accounts for, but usually the biggest one is going to be the mix and match of lineups because it's tough to take it. Like it's easy to go with and without this one player, but it's not easy to go with and without 2 to 3 players or a lineup change because Colorado got 20 minutes in this game or whatever,
Especially a team like New Orleans where there's so many parts, but it's also I think that's one of the reasons why like game by game projections are really important, which are like what ETR gives out, which is like, hey, based on the lineups and who's available, this is how many minutes I project. This is how many points. So like generally I know a play is really good if my model's lighting up for it and if the projections are lighting up for it. And
100%.
I think that's
good enough. Yeah.
Piece is where I went wrong with Herb.
And same concept for me with Pat Williams. With Vooch out, who's playing along the perimeter and has the ability to drive if they want to once they get out there, right? Pat Williams. And I try to go under his points and boards, and his points were so high because his usage was so high because in part heavily because Vooch wasn't in, right? And he's going to take up a lot of the sort of like big man perimeter space. And Pat Will is usually going to be just more left in the corner, and he was a lot more on the wing than I think he normally would have been. And that's where he was able to score from. So
Yep.
What are you gonna do? And he shot 100% from three. What do you want from me? But let's move on. Let me get into your first play here. Is that cool?
This is one I've been on pretty much a big chunk of the season recently is Julius Randle under 24 and a half points. I mean, if you look at the last 5 games, he's shooting like he's just his shooting numbers are just right around 50%, and he's had a good shot of going under. I just like playing under on a guy who's averaging 22.9 per game. I don't see any reason why his usage should go up. With Randall, it's always a sweat, but I think looking at that number, I'm playing anything 24 and a half or higher, unless Julius Randall is playing like the Pacers, the Hawks, the Wizards. It's just, Orlando is one of the best defenses in the league. They have a lot of guys they can throw at them. Wendell Carter's back. That makes them even better in the areas that Randall likes to score. So I think I'm surprised that number is available still.
24 and a half. Yeah. Yeah. Usually you would have it pegged at 23 and a half. It seems like the projections for that game overall are bloated a little bit. Maybe like they think there's going to be a bunch of points. The total, I believe, has been bet up a bit as well from the open. So
it's a pretty average total. It's 226.
That's what it's at now.
Yeah. I just think there's no reason his points should be set higher.
I agree
on this game.
I felt that way about both he and honestly both Paolo and Franz, but I'm not really willing to go under in a game that doesn't have Mitch Rob anymore. Like that used to be a much more guaranteed. Okay, if you want to attack the basket against this Knicks team and that's all you're capable of doing, which is the Magic's offense without any 3-point shooting, then yeah, you're not running into Mitch Rob anymore.
Yep.
So
1000%. I still played a little bench on myself, but I don't mind you. I don't mind staying away from that. Should we do the second one?
Yeah, let's get into it. I love this second bet.
Yeah, Bilal Coulibaly over 11.5 points and rebounds. This is again just a numbers projection on a guy in a very high total game. You're getting Coulibaly, who averages 13 points and rebounds on the season, who they're playing more and more. He's been over 25 over his, he had a 32-minute game against the Warriors. They're giving this guy run. I don't see a world in which he plays under 25 minutes, which should in this matchup get him well above 11.5 points and rebounds.
You would hope so. He got 11 points against Brooklyn last time in 25 and a half minutes, and then went on a spree. There of getting a bunch of 30-minute games, and this is the type of team I think you play a long, versatile athlete in. Right, this is like you look at the games that he's gotten minutes in, playing against New Orleans, which is just really one big giant long arm on defense because they're all just long athletes, right? And that's where you want a guy who can kind of match that in Coulibaly. So yeah, he gets the minutes against them. He got the minutes against the Pacers because if you're an athletic power forward, you're going to score on the Pacers. So you get him in there. And the same concept even with Toronto, who's just going to throw a bunch of long forwards at you. He got minutes in that game as well. So the points should be close to double digits. Yeah. So I love the points and rebounds combined with that. The Wizards are playing no defense at home. So this is I don't know if this is a high enough total, honestly. I don't think you can put a high enough total for a Wizards team that's just going to keep running up and down the court, and he'll be in the game, hopefully, like in those minutes in the end as well, like he's been getting. So I'm with it, following the minutes there. Let's close it out with your third one here.
Yeah, I actually prefer alts on this one, but I did play the base of Cam Thomas over 1.5 threes, slightly juiced. Minus 130 is where I got it. I mean, if you look at Cam, the reason I say I prefer alts here is he has games where he will shoot. In the last 10 games, he's shot 7 or more threes 4 times, and he shot 6 threes twice. So if you're getting plus 250 for him to make 3, I think that's a better bet than just the 1.5. Because on the other end, he also has games where he was 0 for 1 against the Pistons from 3. So I do think this number might be skewed down a bit because of that game against Milwaukee where he only played the first quarter, but it actually looks like this got pounded pretty hard. And is up to minus 160 now. So at that point, I would definitely just prefer playing plus 200 for him to make 3 threes in the game. But again, high pace spot. I think minus 160 is the limit. Definitely don't bet any higher than that. But you should be able to find better than minus 160 out there still. Just FanDuel's move pretty aggressively.
Yeah. I don't have a. I mean, it's the same two teams in terms of Detroit, where he had 3-1 back-to-back games for him, and then Milwaukee, he took 2. 12 minutes, like we were saying. I don't see the correlation there. I don't understand Detroit. I guess he could just get anywhere on the floor he wants. So he felt comfortable driving in and taking the mid range, because he also takes a ton of mid range shots as
Yeah.
well, because he just takes a ton of shots. But that's why you always like to take an over with Cam Thomas. He's never met a shot he didn't like. So that's where you get volume. You need
Yeah.
it to be 3, right? But I do think the Wizards, look, they give it up everywhere, man. I think he'd probably rather shoot from 3 than have to go up against Daniel Gafford at least. So
Yeah, again, it's not all of my stuff is just numbers plays, and when the context supports it, it's great. Cam Thomas is the guy who scores 40 a lot. Just that's just he has a high range of outcomes, high variance, high standard deviation. So yeah, I think play some of his alt threes is always a good idea, especially in a game where the total is 242.
yeah, make it worth it your time to bet on Cam Thomas is what you're saying, because he could have a freaking dud, and he could have like 4. He could go 4 for 6 from 3, right? And you wouldn't be surprised. So like, if you're gonna keep betting on him, then make it worth your while when you bet on him, so that when you hit, it makes up for the next couple times he just takes the day off or whatever.
1000%.
I'm
Yep.
with it, man.
That's the general strategy we're talking about in preseason, right? When we were betting futures, a lot of them are looking pretty good that we put out. But the idea of when there's uncertainty of outcomes or high range of outcomes, bet, like, take advantage of that. Like those Cam Thomas's threes alts are being priced like every other player's alts, and many other players aren't shooting like a range of 1 through 13. Like a lot of them, right, are like, I'm either shooting 3, 4, or 5 threes. This guy isn't like that, and it's not accounted for in the number. Probably won't be for a long time. So those are the type of spots that are worth looking for.
He's such a wildly impactful player to every game he's in. There's just some dudes where you might not consider them a top 30 player in the NBA, but like when they're in or not in, you're finding a lot of strong angles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ride
Josh,
or die, baby.
Thanks for your time today, man. It's been fun. Hopefully we can keep this up.
Yeah, anytime you're available, man. I appreciate the time. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, man, and just make sure, guys, if you're following my picks, they go out there. They're Josh's picks. If they lose, and if they win, you can credit me.
Facts. That's how I'll have it in the description. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, see you guys.